area, while the other controls the upper reaches with the expansive reed growth. In early August, the huge wildebeest herds from the southern Serengeti come to the region. The dense bushes along the riverbanks provide the big cats with ideal hunting conditions. Nonetheless, mistakes are best avoided. Patiently, she waits for the right moment. This time, it's all too easy. A weak wildebeest has lost contact with the herd. The pride at the upper reaches of the river comprises 5 females, sisters and half-sisters, born into their territory, which they inherited from their mothers. The lionesses are often alone, especially when they have their young to look after. Then they rarely meet with their siblings. In August, 3 of the females on the upper reaches have offspring. Withdrawn, they look after them alone for the first few months. Not all of the lion's neighbors are harmless, though. This python has gobbled down a gazelle, but he is just as keen on a helpless yet tasty lion baby as well. A herd of African buffalo makes its way through the valley. The second mother of the pride knows that the cubs would be in mortal danger should the black giants discover them. As if there weren't enough dangerous neighbors, the lush vegetation of the area attracts elephants too. Nerves of steel are an advantage when sandwiched like this between a herd of buffalo and elephants. In the end, she retreats with her young from the danger zone. The third lioness has found dense foliage in which to accommodate her babies. Her 4 young are as good as invisible here. The thicket is like a fort, impenetrable, even for elephants or buffaloes. Lions are born blind and helpless. They are looked after in hideouts such as this for weeks on end and have to be suckled every few hours. The babies can hardly be seen as the infants of kings, as only very few of them survive the dangerous initial weeks, despite their mother's tireless efforts. The lower course of the Ronkai up to the estuary of the Mara River is the territory of the neighbouring pride. 3 lionesses have brought up 10 strong adolescents, which is an unusually successful result, but at the same time a burden. Because the youngsters are permanently hungry. They're not much help on a hunt either, and spend the day fooling around. The valley and the bordering territories are in the paws of 4 strong brothers. Years ago, they drove other males out of the entire region, and with it, took over the lionesses of a huge territory. The stream is but a small section of their kingdom, which they constantly patrol from one corner to the next. The 4th is following a female who seems to be in the mating mood. Then the annoying neighbors turn up yet again. The cozy get-together is over. Their majesties are not amused. Their reputation damaged, charging off with their tails between their legs, is obviously not how the royals had imagined their day. Countless grazers live in the lush savanna alongside the stream. This attracts a variety of predators, like the serval, for example. The slender wildcat is particularly keen on small prey. Its sensitive ears rarely even miss the rustling of mice. The open grassland above the valley is the world of the serval. Birds shouldn't become too complacent here either, not as long as the nimble cat is out stalking. This time, a small rodent has attracted her attention. Carefully, she tries to get closer. This can take several minutes. Locating the objective is literally a case of playing it by ear. Didn't work this time, but not to worry. There are plenty of snacks where that came from. Patience pays off. A short while later, and an inattentive lark puts a smile back on the serval's face. The cat searches for a cool, shadowy resting place in the increasing heat. Lions don't consider servals as competitors. The small wildcats are mostly ignored by them. Lion mothers are on the move. With such an abundance of prey, it is anything but difficult to be successful, even in the daylight. Surprising the victims in the riverbed is a proven tactic. Everything seems to be going according to plan, when suddenly the tide turns. Badly injured, the lioness trudges into the shade. She won't be able to hunt for weeks, and her milk supply will soon run dry. The other mothers haven't noticed anything about the situation. They often don't see one another for weeks on end. While the cubs are very small, the mothers avoid any contact which could put their babies at risk. Yet still, the simple presence of the sisters is a life insurance policy. Prey is very rarely eaten in its entirety, so that the ill or injured can be certain of their share without having to hunt themselves. As long as the wildebeest herds are in the vicinity, the mother of the four is okay. She's well nourished and has plenty of milk on tap. In the late afternoon, she's off hunting, even though she's not really hungry. At times when food is in ample supply, lions fill up their reserves whenever they can. The herds spend just a few months in the valley. making it prudent to use every opportunity. An experienced lioness makes a hunt look like child's play, but in fact, the risk of being injured is high during each attack, as some wildebeest know how to defend themselves. In the cool evening air, the neighboring pride begins preparations. The teenagers can hardly wait for night to fall. They are in the best of health and are bristling with strength. Their hunting instinct is immediately aroused by a passing zebra. What better time to practice what their mothers have so diligently taught them? But they have obviously overestimated their abilities by far and appear quite confused. The two lionesses don't take things really seriously. The night will provide more simple hunting possibilities. For a few minutes, the savannah is blanketed in calm and peace, as if all present want to draw breath after the heat of the day and prior to the tension of the night. With a thermal imaging camera, we can follow events even in total darkness. As far as elephants are concerned, they go about their business regardless, whether it's day or night. Most herbivores are now noticeably quieter than they are at daytime. Almost soundlessly, the zebras refill their water reserves. Columns of wildebeest make their way to a resting place. They too are very quiet, as lions listen in the dark for telltale sounds. That is, when they're not preoccupied with their offspring. The injured lioness has made it back to her little one's lair. She is still able to give milk. The herds now rest. Stoically, they ruminate or nibble on the odd snack, as always hungry buffaloes do. Not far away, hyenas are getting ready for the night shift. They almost always only hunt in the cool of the night. Without moonlight, both hunter and hunted have to rely primarily on their sense of hearing. The buffaloes can hardly be overheard, but the hyena's behavior shouldn't be taken that seriously. Two lionesses from the pride on the upper reaches also have their sights set on the buffalo herd, hoping for sick or young animals. They have to give up quickly this time. The herd has picked up their scent and is not exactly amused with being shadowed. Her sister, the female with 4 young cubs, is also out and about. It's one of the first nightly excursions for her little ones, and she's nervous. She keeps stopping and listens intently. A serval is also a nocturnal hunter. As he only hunts by ear, so to speak, the darkness is of little consequence to him. He seems to prefer birds to mice, and quickly forgets Mickey. Just maybe, the mouse in the grass would have been a trifle better than the bird in the air. Relaxed, the lioness continues on her way. She knows that her children are not in danger here. The destination of this nocturnal excursion is the wildebeest that the mother killed late in the evening. The babies don't quite know what to do with the prey, but still nibble here and there enthusiastically. The sooner they get used to meat, the better the mother can feed them. However, momentarily, they still need her milk. At least their interest in meat has now been aroused. The teenagers of the neighbouring pride are served the finest their mothers can provide almost every night. But they hardly do anything themselves to help out. Instead, they often frustrate the two adults with their constant pranks. It's often too enticing to practice creeping up on the unsuspected elephants. And indeed, the gentle giant is completely unaware of the curious teenager right next to him. That he remained unnoticed by the elephant is possibly a triumph of sorts, but it didn't have the desired effect for the youngster. The females stop at intervals and just listen. Without moon or starlight, they can hardly see anything. At last, in the pitch darkness, one can just make out the sounds of a large herd. The lions behave completely differently at night. There is no more reason to hide. Openly, they approach the telltale sounds. The antelopes don't react until the lioness is very close to them. Lionesses take turns in the attack and attempt to locate individual animals that have lost contact with the herd. Finally, everything seems to go to plan. But in the dark, they didn't notice that the end of the column had already passed them by. They waited too long. The two huntresses won't slacken the reins. Success is just a question of perseverance. After such hard graft, it's the two lionesses that get the least of the prey. Nobly, they wait for their young to eat first. Every ounce of food secures their chances of survival. reserves for harder times. The wildebeest is hardly a mammoth feast for 12 hungry mouths. As yet, the hyenas haven't had much luck tonight, but it's cool enough to give it one last try. Their hunting tactics are ostensibly simple. They approach a herd openly and bring them up to speed. They chase the animals around without actually following specific wildebeests. But then, the serious business starts. They increase the speed and follow an individual wildebeest. Hyenas are unusually tenacious. They have the largest hearts of all African predators. They can easily run for several minutes at speeds of around 50 kilometers an hour. Very few ungulates can outstrip that. This time too, the hunters are successful. In the early morning light, the cleanup brigades go to work. But the pride has left very little behind this time. The night shift is over. A leopardess pulls her kill from the safety of the tree. She has young to feed in a thicket close by. There is no time to lose, as she should avoid being surprised by lions in the open at all costs. The remains of the lion's prey. Here, the mood begins to get a little heated. The black-backed jackal is anything but enthusiastic about the uninvited brunch guests. Doggedly, he defends the leftovers from the gatecrashers. Unlike plants, meat is a very energy-rich form of nourishment. Just a few bites, and the jackal family are set up for the next day. A spot of belligerence is worthwhile after all. Same applies to the vultures. This pup is noticeably impressed by the turmoil and shyly keeps a safe distance. Especially when a very large hyena drops by. The mother is clearly concerned. The hyena only has eyes for the long bones of the legs. Hyenas' jaws are powerful tools, and it's this fact that makes these animals the only ones in the bone-crushing business. Marrow provides refined fat. For almost 2 months, the injured lioness was nowhere to be seen. Now she's back, her face disfigured. She only survived thanks to leftovers from her sisters. She even produced enough milk to be able to rear 2 of her 3 cubs, despite adversity. They certainly look healthy and strong enough. Without the solidarity of the pride, the entire family would have starved to death. This doesn't mean that everyone is free to help himself. As a matter of principle, the males always claim the lion's share. Actually, this time they also earned it. For once, the ladies were also allowed to take part in the abundant feast. Far behind, a solitary lioness hungrily observes the scene. She is one of the lionesses from the pride downstream. Here, the territories meet, and she dares go no further. In frustration, she helplessly marks the grass. She knows the rules. The upper course lionesses would attack her if she came any closer. Lionesses always defend their territories. The pashas, on the other hand, remain relaxed. After all, every female in their territory is a potential partner. An unknown male is gadding around the area. The commotion has attracted a young lion, and perhaps he is hoping to steal a few morsels from the females. Bad luck for him that the territorial bigwigs are present. The youngster immediately submits to his superiors and discovers that it's his lucky day. The district authorities could have killed him outright, but as he's so young, they don't take him seriously. A few cuts and bruises, and his ordeal is over. The rulers ignore him and turn their attention to their daily business. At the top of the agenda is the extensive marking of their territory. The scent signals are a warning to newcomers. Attention! Danger! Other males are to be deterred so that ugly scuffles and fights can be prevented. The same scent has a comforting effect on the females and signalizes that the fathers and protectors of their young are present. It can only turn dangerous when there are no fresh markings. This means that other males could attempt to take over the ostensibly unclaimed territory. This would mean grave danger for all the young animals, which would only be in the way of the new rulers. The valley is covered with a network of warning signals. As long as the males are close by, the lioness can feel relatively safe with her young down by the river. But the little ones have to be nimble in order to keep up with her. The riverbed still provides the best options to hide the young. Even when it looks as though the clumsy balls of wool are not always in the best of moods. All four have made it to here with no problems. After such a tiring hike, a well-earned break with a snack is on the books. But the mother is nervous. They are being observed. The strange male could pose a danger for her children. Understandably, the lioness is extremely worried. Well, that doesn't seem to have impressed the young man very much. The mother and her offspring have barely withdrawn when he decides to approach the injured lioness's family. The disfigured lioness keeps her eyes on him while he lays down with the group and doesn't stir. The little ones seem somewhat unsettled. The young male with the crumpled ear ignores the mother and comes closer and closer. The mother of the four still keeps her distance from the pride. As long as the herds are in the territory, she needs no support from her sisters. The babies are in a secure hideaway, and she can thus focus on the next hunt. She is well nourished, and her teats correspondingly round and plump. The wildebeest are reluctant to linger in uncharted terrain, and in the afternoon they move out into the open savanna. The lioness often follows them for several miles and has no problem at all keeping up with the wildebeests. This time, she seems to have taken it too lightly. She probably hoped for an animal to make a false move and lose contact with the herd. Sometimes she can block the way of animals that flee in the hope of reaching their herds. She was unlucky this time and has to give up. Her children wait for her down at the stream, well hidden by the maze of bushes, while she, exhausted, waits for new opportunities. The buffalo herd wanders along the edge of the valley. A gust of wind carries the scent of mortal enemies. The buffaloes do not hesitate for a second. After an exhausting afternoon, the lioness returns to her children's hideout. Today, her calls remain unanswered. The buffalo have discovered the lair. not all fell victim to the attack. Two of the four siblings were able to escape the herd. This stroke of fate comes at a time in which further upheavals are emerging. The pride now faces an uncertain future. The lion's main source of prey, the wildebeest herds, are on the way south, back to the Tanzanian sector of the Serengeti. But first, they have to overcome the Mara River. The wildebeests spend a great deal of time looking for a shallow section, but the Mara